Welcome back to part 2 of the zinc gold bar repurification. This is our gold that we have down in the bottom of this beaker. This is the flask. If you look in there, you can see there's metallic gold in that filter paper. So we'll save that and put it in our paper storage. And then over here we have the ferrous sulfate that we used for the precipitation. I'll hang on to that. I can use that for a future gold refining video. Now what we'll do is get the waste solution off of the gold. But first, people were asking about this watch. It's just a cheap Walmart watch. Got a clip for your belt. It's for a sports runner. Clip it on your belt and fold it in like that and see what time it is. It's just a cheap Walmart watch, nothing fancy. So what we'll do is go ahead and pour off this waste solution into my stock pot. This is one of 2 stock pots that I have. All of my gold refining waste goes through these stock pots. And what I do is I keep copper in here. It's a piece of copper tubing that I bought at a yard sale. And then here's some copper wire that I'll throw in there. And what happens is any precious metals that remain in that solution will cement out onto this copper and fall to the bottom of this bucket, which is my stock pot, and cement out on that copper, and then we can recover the precious metals from the stock pot. This is the first step in the waste treatment process. Alright, here's our gold that we have down inside our beaker. We did a little experiment with some zinc earlier in part 1, or no, actually a couple videos ago already now. And so what we'll do is add this to the stock pot. This is the pipette I used to draw the gold up into the experiment. Here's a piece of zinc that was left over from the zinc precipitation. I'm going to throw that in, and then any precious metals that were on that zinc will cement out in the stock pot. I'm adding the contents of my waste container. Go ahead and pour this into the stock pot as well. Here's what's left in the waste container. That's gold down in there. We'll get that out in a future video. Now what I'll do is rinse the gold off with some hydrochloric acid. Now I'm going to rinse with some water. This is the dish that we used to dry the gold that we precipitated with zinc. I see some blue color in there, which tells me that there may be some copper in that zinc. I'm adding a little bit of hydrochloric acid. Now I'm adding some nitric acid to form aqua regia in here. And we're going to burn this, burn these few crumbs of gold, or dissolve them, and add it to the stock pot. Put it up on the heat back here. Let it dissolve. While I'm waiting for that to dissolve back there, if you notice, when I rinse our gold off with water, the water's colorless. Looks like all the iron's been rinsed out of it. Then if I rinse again with hydrochloric acid, you'll notice that we get a yellow color from the iron that's still present in that gold. Hydrochloric acid does a much better job of rinsing the dissolved metals off of the gold than plain water does. I got all that to dissolve. Now we'll go ahead and dump it in our stock pot. And our drying dish is nice and clean now. Now we'll do a couple of hydrochloric acid boils to get all the iron rinsed off of the gold. I'm going to put it on time lapse to do that. Here's our gold. It's looking pretty good, actually. I've done 3 hydrochloric acid boils. I think I've got all the iron rinsed out of here now. But what we'll do is pour this off now into our stock pot. Yeah, that solution looks colorless. Gold looks good, nice and fluffy. Just give this a couple of water boils before we move on to the next step. I've got the water boils complete. Pour this off, this last water boil. And now what we'll do, got the stock pot full. I'm going to put a lid on this thing, take it outdoors, bubble some air through it to create movement. All the precious metals, if any, will cement out on the copper. The copper will go into solution. All the toxic metals will come out of solution, and all I'll have is copper in solution in the stock pot. I've got a few 100 milliliters of 29% hydrogen peroxide in that separatory funnel. What we're going to do is use hydrogen peroxide to dissolve the gold a second time. I'm going to add hydrochloric acid to the gold. We'll put it up to about the 300 milliliter level. I've got the gold powder in about 300 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. I'm going to add some heat. It takes a lot of heat for this reaction. And now what we'll do is I'll turn on the hydrogen peroxide flow and start flowing the 29% hydrogen peroxide down into our beaker down here. Try to just drip it in a little at a time like that. And we're going to use hydrogen peroxide to avoid any nitrosol entanglements for this reaction. I used almost 3/4 of a liter of hydrogen peroxide, and I still got a few crumbs of gold that did not dissolve. What we'll do is pull this down off the heat and let this cool off. I've got this iced down, but before I forget, I'm adding some sulfuric acid, just a little bit, to precipitate out any lead that may have made it this far. We got a little bit of gold left down in this beaker. It didn't dissolve with the hydrogen peroxide, not much. So what we'll do is just add it to our temporary waste container, make it a deposit into our savings account. There's still some junk in the gold. Kind of had a feeling that that zinc was going to want to try to follow the gold. I'm going to start dripping some sulfuric acid down into the SMB in our gas generator flask, and this will form SO2 gas. Now what we'll do, we've got a gas flow established. Let me dilute our solution here. I'm adding some distilled water to dilute the gold solution. And now let's go ahead and put our delivery tube in and start bubbling SO2 gas into the gold solution. See if that's going to be good or not. I think I'm going to leave it off. See it better with no light. Starting to see a color change. This is about 3 minutes into the reaction, and I think it's going to flash over. There it goes. Nice and slow this time for us. Boom. I'm willing to bet that the reaction is complete now. Get a little solution on a piece of filter paper, do a stannous test, and you can see there's no gold in solution. So let me get in here and rinse our tube off. Shut the acid flow off to the gas generator, and now we'll just let our gold settle out completely here. I've allowed the gold to settle completely, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to get down in here and get the gold out. First thing I got to do is pour off this waste solution into one of my waste containers. All right, here's what the gold looks like down in our beaker. There shouldn't be any chemicals in here that need to be rinsed off. But what we'll do, this is hydrochloric acid in a squirt bottle. I'm rinsing down the sides of the beaker with hydrochloric acid. The gold looks pretty good in here. Settling out pretty quickly. I think what we're going to do, I'm going to add a little bit more hydrochloric acid. And now we're going to set this up on the heat back here. I did not like the residue that I seen in that filter, so we're going to try to dissolve the gold for a third time. I'm adding a few drops of hydrochloric acid, or sulfuric acid rather, not much, just a little bit. Precipitate out any lead that may be present. Now what I'll do, I'm measuring out about 20 milliliters of nitric acid, maybe a little more. We're going to dump that right on in and dissolve this gold a third time. think there's still some gold down in there that has not dissolved. So now what we'll do is we'll start adding very tiny doses of nitric acid. See if we can get the rest of that gold to dissolve completely. That was about 1 milliliter, maybe a little less. Got everything now to dissolve completely. What we'll do is pull this down off the heat and let it cool down. Got this iced, and what I want to see now is a spotlessly clean white filter after we get done filtering this liquid. Alright, so far this filter is looking good, nice and clean. Looks pretty good this time around. I don't see a whole bunch of trash in here. Looks a lot cleaner this time. Let me get in here and get a little bit of this solution on a piece of filter paper. Test it with stannous to show that we've got gold in solution before we do the precipitation. Here we go. We're going to use stump out this time. Do it the old-fashioned way. 1 spoon of stump out at a time. Here we go. Yeah, just gonna keep on going here. That should do it. That's 5 spoons of sodium metabisulfite. That should be enough to precipitate all the gold. I'm going to reach in here and get another stannous test. Just make sure we've got all the gold precipitated. And you can tell from that test all the gold has come down. Now let's put our gold up here on the heat pad. Let's see if we can get it to settle out for us right quick. In the meantime, there's a little bit of gold left in here. I'll pull it through the filter, collect it in this flask, and then put it in my waste container. Let's go ahead and pull this down now and let it cool off. Gold looks like. Now we're going to do multiple distilled water boils with a hydrochloric acid boil, and then some more water boils until we get all the chemicals rinsed off of here. I think we've got the gold cleaned up pretty good now. Transferring the gold to our drying dish. Boom, just like that. Alright, we're going to dry our gold off now. I will pull it down off the heat and let this cool down. Here's our beautiful gold powder. It looks spectacular. Now we're going to try to get it into this melt dish. Now let's go over on the melt table and melt an ingot. I'm going to start out with a very, very low flame here. Looks like sunny side up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This thing came out much better. Here's our bar. Oh, it's incredible. It just looks stunning. Let's see, we had 64.5 grams. We got 62.7, so we lost a few grams during the refining. That's okay. Okay, here's our finished gold bar. It looks spectacular. It's absolutely gorgeous. Triple refined. Finally got all that zinc out of there. And we got it stamped up. What we'll do is put that on our eBay site and offer it for sale. And folks are still trying to ask me questions on my eBay messaging system. I can't answer those questions about refining. If you ask a question on refining on my eBay messaging system, I have to delete it. So it's best to answer questions in the comment section of the videos. This will conclude the video. Thank you for watching.